What's up, everybody? PJ video number 5, arms. You'll notice that we didn't shoot the clock in the beginning of this one. The clock was broken for some reason, but I can assure you that this was a 45-minute workout, just like the rest of them. Now, I almost always start out my arm workout with this particular move, and I pretty much always start out with triceps. I'm kind of from the old school of thought of doing the bigger muscle group first. I do always do tris and bis together. So you'll see that I'm doing a rope here, and I'm going to show you guys a couple of different variations with the rope. So when you keep your elbows forward and your arms in like that, you can hit the long head a little more, and you can actually put your shoulders forward, flare your elbows out to hit the medial head a little more. And I actually like to go back and forth. Here's the traditional version while I'm doing my sets. I feel like if you do that, you can get the blood going everywhere. And I'm kind of treating this as a warm-up to lubricate my joints and my elbows and stuff, but I'm gonna do enough sets where I'm counting it as a working set at the end also. So what I do is I start with 30 pounds. I know that's very, very light, and I do 20 reps. Then I immediately make the weight 1 pin heavier, so I put it up to 40, and I do 20 reps again. And I will actually keep on doing that until I can't get 15 reps with what I feel is good form anymore. At that point, I'll take a break for a second, and then I'll do a drop set. So depending on where I'm at in a diet or off season or how I'm feeling, I'll usually get up to anywhere between like 80 to 100 pounds, which is not real heavy if you just go right into it. But when you're doing them all consecutively in a row, you're thinking you're doing hundreds of reps when you do that. It does burn pretty bad, and then I'll do my last drop set. So you see here, you can actually see through my shirt the muscle contracting a little bit differently when I have my elbows in those different positions. When my elbows are forward like that, out in front of me, you can actually see the stretch of the long head versus where when I'm leaning forward, you can actually see that outer meaty piece of the tricep that most people have developed easily popping out a little bit more. And there's nothing wrong with changing around the positioning on this. You can't just think to yourself, oh, well, I read in a book that you have to stand totally straight and pull your elbows down by your sides. You have to do what's best for you. Move it around, see what you feel the best, see what you think is giving you the best contraction, the best burn, and do that for you. Maybe it means that you're gonna do a bunch of different variations like I am here. But I encourage you to try as many different motions as possible. And the rope is the one that I think you have the best advantage to do that with. And that is why I like the rope the best. I think I'm almost done here. Let's see. This is probably my last drop set, it looks like, the way I'm struggling. And like I said, I will almost start every tricep workout with this exercise. Biceps, I move around a lot, I do different things. Chest, back, I'll vary my workouts, but I really like doing the rope first. I think it's very good for lubricating the joints. I've been fortunate enough to have triceps that grow relatively easy, so I don't need to do the same amount of crazy volume with my triceps as I do with all my other body parts. And I'm sure there's a lot of people that are gonna say, oh, your triceps overpower your biceps too much. And I suppose they do, but I've also suffered tears that we'll talk about a little later in both of my biceps, one of which I had reconstructive surgery on. So when I'm done with my drop sets here, I will move on to a dip superset. And I really like to do these 2 dip machines together. Now, when you do the regular selectorized or Nautilus dip machine, when you're doing it focused on your tricep, it's very important that you stay as upright as possible, like you see I'm doing here. When you lean forward too much, you start activating the chest, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but we're trying to isolate the tris as much as possible. Now you're gonna look at this and say, what the hell is this guy doing? He's not in the machine right, he's backwards, what's he doing? So this is something I was just playing around with one day, and I think that you guys will really like this. This motion mimics a close grip decline bench press, which is really rough on the shoulder joints, but awesome for your triceps. So you position yourself right outside of the dip machine. You gotta be on the hammer strength machine. You keep your elbows in close to your body. You have to focus on keeping them close to your body, and you're pushing down and forward, and you'll get a really good contraction. I love this combination of supersets doing them this way. You're gonna wanna go heavy on the selectorized version, but on the hammer strength version, it's more about concentrating on the squeeze and getting that contraction. This is similar as far as action to when you do a Smith machine tricep extension, which I don't like. I find those to bother my shoulder. You can concentrate really hard on the triceps on these and not worry about the shoulder. I usually do 4 total supersets of these before I move on. Next in my rotation, we're gonna do the overhead tricep extension, supersetted with a V-bar pushdown. Now, the reason I like to combine these two together is when you hit the overhead extension like this with the close grip, you're gonna hit the long head a lot. You're gonna feel that stretch, and it's very important to come all the way back before your head. And then when you run over and you do that V-bar pushdown, you're gonna hit the medial head a lot. So you're covering everything in this superset. And you can see the difference, you know, just in my arm positioning, you can see the tricep firing more towards the outside there versus in the stretch. But you always wanna get that stretch motion involved. You never wanna neglect the stretch in any body part. I see a lot of people when they're doing their tricep pushdowns, like the guy right there that's in the back of the video, stopping at 90 degrees, and that is actually a mistake to do that. There you see me showing off my new Celestial Bodies tank top. The missus has had a lot of success with the women's line of clothing, so we decided it was time to not discriminate against the guys and put out some guy stuff too. These tank tops are actually really awesome, and they're so awesome that I want to make them for Blackstone Labs, so expect to see Blackstone Labs in this cut of tank top soon. Just like all the other stuff we do at Blackstone Labs, they're high quality, made by American Apparel, none of that cheap crap. We only want the finest unicorn for you guys. I think this is my last set of the superset here. I go pretty heavy on these. This is a 12 to 15 rep range. And again, this is 4 total sets of supersets. I'll typically do 4 sets of my supersets for my tricep exercises. And then we'll move on. Get a quick little pose there for you real quick. I believe the last exercise I'm gonna do, if I can go from memory, is I like to start my workout with the rope, and I like to finish with unilateral exercises. So we got one more here. This is a cool angle Trevor got. I liked having him underneath me like that. It was something that was new for us, but it may continue as we go forward. I know he liked being under there too. But you can see in this position that my elbows are staying close to my head. This is a lot safer on the shoulder joint than your typical overhead dumbbell extension. I used to love doing those when I was a kid. You know, grab like a 130-pound dumbbell and grind out the reps, but those are really brutal on a bad shoulder. You don't see me doing those too much anymore. But I do think that with the cable, you can put on some decent weight and still keep your form strength and strict and not worry about hurting the actual shoulder. All right, now, like I said a few seconds ago, I like to finish up with single arm exercises. So we're gonna show you guys a couple variations. This one is my favorite. This is the underhand reverse grip push down. What's cool about this one is you get a very, very big stretch all the way through the long head. This is the farthest range of motion. You'll see I'm starting all the way up near my collarbone and coming all the way down across my body. Now, sometimes I see guys doing this just facing straight against the machine, and there's nothing wrong with that, but you're actually limiting the range of motion when you do that. So this is kind of like, if you think about it, it's the opposite of a hammer curl. It's like a reverse hammer curl. So it's the motion of a hammer curl, but focused on the tricep. You can see I got a lot of blood in there now. And you can see the stretch as well. I'll usually do, if I'm only gonna do these, which I'm not in this particular workout, I'll probably do 4 sets, call it a day. But what I did in this workout is I think I did 2 or 3 sets of each variation that I'm gonna show you guys. And I encourage you to try them all to see which one you like the best. They're all gonna hit the muscle from different angles, and they're gonna burn you out a lot. What I'm doing here, same range of motion, but now with an overhand grip. So when you do this one, you really feel it in the medial head a lot. So you're kind of coming across your body. The reason that I do these like this, I kind of thought to myself one day, like when somebody's like, oh, let me see your tricep, this is kind of the way you stick your arm out and flex it. And I'm like, you know what, there's not really any exercises like that. You know, let me mess around with something on the cable. And that's what I did, and I actually do those all the time now because it's a pretty unique motion, but it burns a lot. So going from there, we'll move into now what you see me doing here is a single arm overhead extension, much like what I was doing with the rope. This is kind of like a single arm skull crusher, a lot safer on the elbow and shoulder joint. Also want you to see how far my range of motion is. You see I'm coming all the way back behind my head. Like I stated earlier, you don't want to stop at 90 degrees. You always want to take the muscle through the farthest range of motion possible. Little tip, when you do these, you want to keep your elbow at 90 degrees. If you start coming down too much towards the floor, you're going to be pushing with your shoulders too much. So make sure you're keeping it at 90 degrees. This is another one that's great for stretch. Another great finishing isolation exercise. I think that you guys will like at the very least one of these. You'll probably like all of them, but mess around with them. see which one you guys like the best. And this is all I do for triceps. I don't do any crazy heavy stuff anymore. My triceps, like I said, grow very easily. Unfortunately, my biceps do not grow the same way. And I take a much different approach with biceps. Where I do almost all cables for tris, I actually like to do almost all dumbbells for bis. One of my favorite exercises to start is the incline dumbbell curl. I like this because you can't cheat with the delts. And you'll see I'm actually back pretty far. What I normally do, and I don't think we're gonna get into this in the video because it would just be too long and boring, is I start at a fairly steep incline and I actually keep moving the seat down towards the flat position. And just by doing that, you're changing the stress and the angle by, say 10% each time. That, from start to finish, puts a unique stretch on the bicep, and it pumps you in a much different way. This is not something that you're gonna be able to go heavy on because it's such an awkward motion. I think I maybe do 25, 30 to 35 at the heaviest. Another one of my favorite exercises, but first I wanted Trevor to zoom in here. You can see that hole on the upper outside of my arm? That was the tear that I did not have surgery on. So I had reconstructive surgery on the right, no surgery on the left. So I thought it was funny. People would always say, oh, he has synthol on his arms, look at how they're shaped. No, they're shaped that way because they're torn to pieces. If you look close, you can see the graininess and the separation. There's definitely no synthol in there. I did use painless pumps in my rear delts when I was competing. It worked great, made your shoulders look a lot bigger. As you can see, I definitely don't use it now that I'm not competing. There's definitely a lack of fullness back there, but I do everything I can with what I got. The single arm preacher curl is great because you can really isolate the muscle. And like I said, with these injuries, I like to really isolate each side because one arm is stronger, one arm hurts in different spots. And when you do the unilateral exercises, you can really concentrate, make sure you're not hurting yourself, make sure you're stimulating everything as much as possible. The one thing when you do these guys, you do not want to jerk from the bottom. So you see I go down nice and slow, control it back up, nice and slow on the way down, and control it. Now, this is one of those exercises where you do not want to be trying to force fail reps. It's a very, very dangerous exercise because of the stress it puts directly on that tendon. If you're doing it with 25 pounds, 30 pounds, maybe that's one thing. I've seen guys like, Ronnie Coleman do these things with 70, 80 pounds, and this is the stuff that rips your arms apart, man. You can hurt yourself pretty bad. One of my favorite poses there, I always loved the victory pose when I would see Sergio do it, or even Lee Priest. I think that when you've got that development in your forearms and you can show a pose like that looks that good, it's really cool. I have a pretty good forearms. I think that when your arms are big overall, it can at times make your forearms look smaller. Also, when your forearms are small and your upper arms are big, it looks even worse. So you try to have everything balanced as much as possible. But I don't do too much supersets with my biceps. I like to do more straight sets, isolation. I do get nervous because of the injuries. At this point in the game, I've had so many injuries that I'm trying to not hurt anything anymore. A lot of isolation work for the bis. If I was going to superset anything, it'd probably be a couple cable exercises, but what I'm showing you in this particular workout are my favorites. So although I change exercise selection all the time, what I'm showing you now for biceps is my favorite exercises. I do straight bar curls sometimes, I do all kinds of other stuff, but these are my favorites that I utilize the most. Going on, I'm going to show you guys a really unique exercise. Stopped to get a little respect from one of the bodybuilders in the gym. This is a woman who's been bodybuilding her whole life. She wanted to make sure my legs were doing okay there. But what I'm going to show you guys is a variation of a cable curl, okay? So what you're gonna do is you're gonna take a cambered bar curl and hold it all the way in on the inside. You'll see I'm holding it so close that I'm almost actually where the clip in the cable is attaching. And what I do is I bring my shoulders and elbows forward. So you're almost gonna imagine that you have like an imaginary preacher bench in front of you. I don't know if any of you guys have seen one of those arm blasters that you put around your neck and it actually hooks your arms in front of you. Arnold used to use one back in the day. Well, this is basically that exercise without the actual arm blaster. You're just fixing yourself in that position. You don't need a little contraption to stick yourself. You can hold yourself there and concentrate on the isolation. But this will hit the quote-unquote peak of the bicep. Now, people will tell you that you cannot change the shape of your biceps, and you really can't. But you can stress different areas, and the area that would be stressed through the peak is the inside of the bicep, is what you're really going to feel the burn more on through this. You want to keep your reps very steady and like a pulsing motion, almost up, down, no stops, constant tension. But those are really, really awesome. I finish with those a lot, but you can stick them in the middle. See a guy got his Prime Nutrition shirt on here. I really love seeing stuff like this, the Beth or Nothing baby. You got guys that'll wear Blackstone Labs shirts in here, Prime Nutrition shirts. I'm even seeing some girls doing it. It's very flattering. It's actually really surreal to see, you know, my company that I worked so hard on, you know, being respected and being a part of the community, especially in my own gym. I love it. It's become something I see quite often now. This is a good old-fashioned one-arm Arnold curl. I believe that is what they're called. I saw them for the first time in Arnold Schwarzenegger's encyclopedia. I've been doing them ever since then. The trick with this exercise is to make sure that your arm is hanging straight towards the floor. So you see where my elbow is, it's not moving, it's not being jerked. I'm not jerking my shoulder. This is all bicep coming from a dead hang straight up. These are very hard to do the right way. Now you can swing your elbow and your shoulder around all day with a heavy weight, but you're not going to stimulate your bicep the right way. You'll see this is all bicep, doing all the work, focusing on the contraction. Sometimes when I really want to burn out, what I'll do is I'll pick a weight, we'll say 30 pounds or so, and I'll go to failure on both sides, and I'll keep going back and forth for 3 sets, and that'll be it. Then I'll move on. The final exercise that I'm going to show you is hammer curls. I almost always finish with hammer curls. So I usually start with different exercises. I always start, you know, my tries, like I said, with the rope. But I always finish bis for the most part with a hammer curl. I think that it's a mistake to neglect the brachial radialis, which is the muscle that is responsible for lifting your arm up. It gets a ton of stimulation on back day. All your rowing moves, your pull downs, you're working brachial radialis like crazy. But I do think if you isolate it a little bit at the end like this in a bicep workout, you're not going to overtrain it, and you can really get a different thickness to your arm that you don't see if you're not really focusing on this. And what I also do is I vary my range of motion and hand position on this. So you'll see here, I'm coming across my body a little bit. I do prefer to do them straight up and down, but it's a little bit of a different contraction when you come across your body. And also sometimes I will slightly supinate my wrist, which is the turning motion of your wrist, which is what your bicep is responsible for. And you'll see me getting into that a little bit here. You'll see I'm slightly turning out and hitting that bicep a little bit more. That is the bicep itself is actually responsible for supinating your wrist. So we're gonna hit some posing. I actually think I posed for a while. We'll probably wind up editing some of this out and maybe throwing it into another video for you guys, but I'll leave some here. You'll see that I still can't open my lat spread the right way, which is unfortunate. I've been working really hard on it. That's been one of the determining factors whether or not I'd be getting on stage. But this is probably the last training video, guys. Thank you so much for everything. And the discount code is still going. Beat PJ with 15% off, excuse me, ran a little brain fart there, Blackstone Labs, and 20% off Prime Nutrition. Runs until December 1st, and then it is expired forever, so take advantage of it now. And I will leave you with me hitting some posing. Hope you guys enjoyed.